Drafting first overall should guarantee an NHL star, however that is not always the case. So in today's list we're going to count down the 10 worst number 1 overall draft picks of all time. Number 10, Greg Joly. In their first ever NHL entry draft, the Washington Capitals were awarded the first overall draft choice in 1974, which they used to select defenseman Greg Joly. Joly had scored over 70 assists in his draft year playing for the Regina Pats and was touted as the next Bobby Orr by the Capitals GM. He would make the NHL roster the following season, but only put up 8 points in 44 games. The next season he split between the NHL and the AHL, however he never really seemed to recover, so after just 365 NHL games, Joly flamed out of the league at age 29. He would go on to have a lengthy career in the minors, but of course that's not exactly what you're shooting for with the first overall pick. Number 9, Rick Pagnutti. In 1967, the LA Kings drafted the high-scoring defenseman Rick Pagnutti out of the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey League. He would turn professional the very next year, but had to settle for the AHL Springfield Kings. Over the next decade, he would bounce around 5 different minor professional hockey leagues before calling it quits on his career and never playing one game for the LA Kings. Number 8, Doug Wickenheiser. In 1980, the Montreal Canadiens drafted the highly touted Western Canadian Doug Wickenheiser. Wickenheiser was a superstar in junior hockey. He scored over 260 points over the course of 2 seasons for the Regina Pats and was the consensus number 1 prospect for that draft. However, fans of the Montreal Canadiens desperately wanted management to select Denis Savard, who is French-Canadian absolutely tearing up the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Management, however, decided to stick with Wickenheiser at first overall, and Savard fell to Chicago at number 3. Wickenheiser was faced with enormous amounts of criticism right off the bat, as Denis Savard found success immediately with the Blackhawks while Wickenheiser started off struggling. After just 3.5 seasons, Wickenheiser was traded to St. Louis, while Savard would go on to score over 1,000 points in 1,000 games. Number 7, Gord Kluzak. In 1982, the Boston Bruins drafted the 6'4" defenseman Gord Kluzak first overall out of the Western Hockey League. This draft choice was known to be risky at the time, as Kluzak missed over half of his draft year due to torn ligaments in his knee. This would be the first of many knee injuries for Kluzak, which would eventually end his career altogether. He made the Bruins the following year and would play almost all of his first 2 seasons in the NHL. However, he would sit out all of his third year, 1984-85, before coming back the following season. However, he once again missed the entire 1986 season due to the same injury and would never recover because of his chronic knee problems. He was out of the league at age 27. The second overall pick that draft, however, turned out to be the legendary Brian Bellows. Number 6, Rick DiPietro. In 2000, proven genius Mike Milbury and the New York Islanders drafted goaltender Rick DiPietro first overall out of Boston University. To make matters worse, since he drafted DiPietro, he decided to trade his current starting goalie Roberto Luongo for a bag of pucks. DiPietro started the year off in the minors as he was recovering from an injury, but he ended up still playing in 20 games in his rookie season, struggling with an .878 save percentage behind an extremely weak Islanders team. He would slightly recover over the next 4 seasons, but never posted anything that screamed starting NHL goaltender. Then on September 12, 2006, the Islanders quite literally shocked the hockey world and signed DiPietro to a massive 15-year, $67.5 million contract. In fact, his career thus far couldn't even be deemed impressive, as he had a .900 save percentage through 143 games played. And as we all know, 15-year contracts are really encouraging towards success, so as everyone predicted, DiPietro went on to struggle over the next 8 seasons, while also dealing with concussion, hip, groin, and knee injuries. Then on July 1st, 2013, the Islanders bought out the remaining 80 years of his contract and agreed to pay him $1.5 million each year for the next 16 years. DiPietro would attempt to come back in the Carolina system, however it was extremely short-lived, and now he's an ESPN radio host. Number 5, Brian Lawton. In 1983, the Minnesota North Stars took the high-scoring forward from Rhode Island high school hockey, Brian Lawton, first overall. With this pick, Lawton became the first American to be drafted first overall, as well as the first and only player to ever be selected first overall directly out of high school hockey. He jumped right into the league the following season, playing in 58 games and scoring 31 points. A slightly disappointing rookie season, but nothing that screamed red flag. The next year, however, Lawton split time between Minnesota and their AHL affiliate in Springfield. Despite a huge regression in the NHL, with Lawton only putting up 11 points in 40 games, he was still largely successful in the AHL as he scored a point per game rate. In the 1985 season, Lawton was back in the NHL full-time and would remain with the North Stars for the next 3 seasons. However, he would never play in a full NHL season or score more than 45 points in that duration. In 1988, the North Stars once again tried to assign Lawton to Springfield of the AHL, but this time he refused to report and was then traded to the New York Rangers before being flipped to Hartford for even further punishment. It was at this point that Lawton's career went into a downward spiral, as he went on to play in 8 different cities across 3 different leagues in the following 4 years. When he retired in 1993 with 266 career NHL points in 483 games, he started a sports agency firm that was largely successful and later acquired by Octagon. Then in 2008, he attempted a management career but failed miserably in Tampa and now works as an NHL Network analyst. The 3 players selected after him, by the way, were Sylvain Turgeon, Pat LaFontaine, and Steve Yzerman. Number 4. Nhl Yakupov. In 2012, the Edmonton Oilers drafted the skilled Russian scorer Nhl Yakupov first overall out of the Sarnia Sting. In his draft year, Yakupov scored 69 points in 42 games, but recorded over 100 points the year prior in his rookie OHL season. He was also ranked as the top North American skater that year, but he was not a consensus number 1 pick. He started that lockout year by playing in the KHL, but came over to Edmonton when the CBA was signed, scoring 31 points in 48 games, a hopeful rookie season. However, he would regress the next year, only scoring 24 points in 63 games, and then 33 points in 82 games the next year. At this point, it was becoming clear that Yakupov was not going to pan into the player they had hopes of, and in his final season as an Oiler, 2015-2016, he managed just 8 goals across 60 games. In October of 2016, Yakupov was traded to the St. Louis Blues for a prospect and a 3rd-round pick. That year for the Blues, however, Yakupov had career lows with 9 points in 40 games. The Blues neglected to re-sign him, and instead he signed with Colorado, where he continued to struggle with 16 points in 58 games. This past summer, he decided to sign a 2-year deal with SKA St. Petersburg of the KHL to further develop himself. Number 3. Erik Johnson. In 2006, the St. Louis Blues drafted defenseman Erik Johnson from the US Under-18 team. As an 18-year-old, Johnson was looking like a stud. He was scoring an insane amount of points for a hybrid 2-way defenseman, and his 6'4" frame helped him to stand out even more defensively. With the selection, Johnson became the first American-born defenseman to be selected first overall without playing in major junior or college. For the next season, Johnson became the first player in 44 years to play college hockey after being selected first overall, as he decided to attend the University of Minnesota in 2006-2007. However, he returned pro the following season and pretty much lived up to his potential playing for the Blues. He averaged over 18 minutes of ice time and scored 33 points in 69 games. Sadly, during the offseason, Johnson tore 2 ligaments in his knee during a team golfing outing and missed his entire sophomore season. Johnson would come back the following season and improved on his play throughout the following years, but was traded to Colorado in 2011. Since his draft day, Johnson has surely been one of the most consistent 2-way defensemen in the NHL, so you may be wondering what makes him one of the worst first overall draft picks of all time. And if you go to that 2006 draft, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th overall selections were Jordan Staal, Jonathan Toews, Nicholas Backstrom, and Phil Kessel. Although Johnson's been solid, his draft class was elite around him. In fact, he said it best himself, he wasn't the best player in the draft, but he was the best defenseman. Number 2. Patrik Stefan. In 1999, the Atlanta Thrashers drafted forward Patrik Stefan first overall out of the Long Beach Ice Dogs of the International Hockey League. In his draft year, Stefan scored 35 points in 33 games at that minor pro level, but nothing really suggested an elite level talent. He stepped right into the NHL the following season and struggled massively, scoring just 5 goals in 72 games. He continued to struggle over the next 6 years, never scoring more than 40 points and only playing in a full 82-game season 1 time. In 2006, he was traded to the Dallas Stars, where he notoriously missed an empty net on a breakaway, and I think it's fair to say this play all but solidified the end to his NHL career. He would play just 41 games with Dallas that season, scoring 11 points, and was not re-signed at the end of the year. Shocker. He would finish his NHL career with just 188 points in 455 games. After playing just 3 games in Switzerland the following season, Stefan returned to North America, where he currently works as a player agent and a coach for the Detroit Little Caesars. The next 2 picks in the 1999 draft were the Sedin twins. Number 1. Alexandre Daigle. In 1993, the Ottawa Senators drafted the extremely hyped forward Alexandre Daigle first overall. At the time, Daigle had just put up 137 points in 53 games for Victoriaville of the QMJHL, and he was dubbed as a can't-miss prospect and NHL superstar in waiting. In fact, the Quebec Nordiques were so eager to draft the next French-Canadian superstar that they offered to trade Owen Nolan, Peter Forsberg, and Ron Hextall to the Senators in exchange for that first overall pick. However, Ottawa management refused as they wanted to draft a superstar of their own. Daigle stepped right into the league the next season and for the most part lived up to the hype, scoring 51 points. However, that would be his best season in the NHL, and he would never score more than 26 goals in one season. He would spend parts of 5 seasons in Ottawa and was highly criticized for lacking effort and motivation, with his lucrative long-term 5-year, $12.5 million entry-level contract to blame. His attitude was a consistent problem for the team. In a 1996 incident, Daigle was removed from a team flight to Pittsburgh after making a bomb threat to a flight attendant. In 1998, Ottawa finally got sick of Daigle and traded him to Philadelphia. After just 68 games with the team, he was traded to Edmonton and then immediately flipped to Tampa. After just 32 games with Tampa, he was acquired by the Rangers, who attempted to revive the junior hockey star, but realized the inevitable and waived him at the end of the season. At the age of 25, Daigle found himself completely out of hockey, and much due to his own fault. He later admitted in an interview that he had no desire to play the game anymore, and actually never wanted to play the game, but continued to play growing up due to his talent, which seems like a bit of a red flag that should have been picked up sooner. Instead, Daigle was more interested in the fame and celebrity status, so he played in a small celebrity hockey league in LA with the likes of Cuba Gooding Jr. and Jerry Bruckheimer as he attempted to rise in the entertainment industry. Following a 2-year absence from hockey, Daigle was in need of a steady paycheck after blowing his first contract up his nose and attempted an NHL comeback in 2002. After leading the Pittsburgh Penguins in preseason scoring, he made the opening night roster, but after just 33 games, he was sent down to the AHL for the remainder of the year. The next season he signed in Minnesota, where he was able to match his career high point total, but after the lockout year he couldn't find his game and was eventually loaned back to the AHL. Aware that his NHL career was over, Daigle signed in Switzerland, where he would play for 4 seasons. On his draft night back in 1993, Alexandre Daigle infamously stated, "I'm glad I got drafted first because no one remembers number 2. Well, Daigle would finish his career with 327 points in 616 games. Meanwhile, the second pick in that 93 draft was Chris Pronger. Currently, Daigle is working in the movie industry in Montreal. So what'd you guys think? Let me know who you think should have been added, as well as what you want to see next in the comments down below. As always, if you enjoyed, be sure to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.